All right, ready to dive into something that, well, you might think you've heard it all before,
Oh, I know that feeling.
right? Networking.
Hmm.
But hold on, trust me, this isn't about, those awkward moments exchanging business cards at some packed event.
Please, anything but that.
Exactly. We're going way deeper than that. We're going to uncover what it really takes to become a power connector.
Ooh, I like that. Power
Right.
connector.
And because I know you appreciate efficiency.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be smart about this. We're
Mhm.
taking cues from this awesome breakdown of Judy Robinett's book. It's called How to Be a Power Connector.
Oh, I heard of that one.
Yeah. And the best part is it's already condensed. So we're getting right to the good stuff. No need to wade through
Yeah,
hundreds of pages.
music to my ears.
Right. Get to the chase.
I love it.
So what I found so interesting about Robinett's whole approach is it's like this total mindset shift. It's not about what you can get out of networking, but what you bring to the table.
Yeah, and that's huge. It's funny, because when most people think networking, they think, what can this person do for me? But Robinette flips the script.
Totally. It's like instead of showing up to a potluck empty-handed, you're the one bringing those like triple chocolate brownies everyone can't wait to try.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Right. Everyone wants a piece of that.
Exactly. And Robinette has this great term for it. She calls these connections strategic relationships. It's not just like random people you've met. It's about building a network where everyone benefits, support, resources, maybe even doors opening to opportunities you never even considered.
It's funny you should say that. It reminds me of this story. So a few years back, a good friend of mine, Sarah, she unexpectedly lost her job. And it
Mm.
was, one of those situations really tough. But what blew me away was how quickly she landed back on her feet. In fact, she ended up in a role that was even better than the last one. Better pay, better everything.
Wow, that's amazing. I bet her network had something to do with that.
Oh, absolutely. She told me it was all because of her connections. People she'd worked with before, people she'd mentored, even just like casual acquaintances. They all came together, offered her leads, recommendations, you name it. It really hit home for me how powerful a strong network can be, especially when times get rough.
Totally. It's like that safety net you've been building without even realizing it, made up of all these connections you've nurtured over time. And that's where this whole power connector concept comes in.
So you saying those awkward business card swaps at events, those do have a place?
Not exactly. It's more about how you approach networking, right? It's got to be genuine, mutually beneficial, be the person that others want to connect with because you consistently bring something valuable to the table.
Okay, now that's intriguing. So the book actually uses this analogy that I thought was so clever, and it really stuck with me. The iPhone charger.
Oh, I remember that one. At first, I was like, okay, where is she going with this?
Right. But it totally makes sense. So think about it. A power connector is like that charger, right?
Yeah.
You're bringing your own unique energy, your own capabilities to your connections. And in a way, you're empowering them to achieve more too.
Exactly. And you're not just sucking energy from the network like some people do, you're actively contributing to it.
Yes, making it more powerful for everyone involved.
And just like a good charger can bring a dead iPhone back to life, a good power connector can like revitalize a whole network. New ideas start flowing. You're opening doors to things that might stayed hidden otherwise.
I love that visual. So speaking of connections, the book talks about this 5 plus 50 plus 100 rule. And I got to be honest, initially I thought it was going to be some complicated math problem or something.
I feel you.
But it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
It's actually a super practical framework for, well, for building a really solid network.
It is. And what I appreciate is it's not about saying, okay, these people are more important than those people or making someone feel bad. It's really about strategically using your time and energy, right?
Right.
So think about your own network for a second. Who are those 5 people you could call right now? No hesitation, your go-to people, your closest confidants, your advisors.
That's easy. For me, I mean, my business partner, definitely.
Yeah.
My college roommate, she always keeps it real. And then a couple mentors I've been lucky enough to have throughout my career. They've always had my back. Okay, so that's my 5. What about the 50 and the 100?
So your 50, those are your key connections, people you're regularly engaging with, good friends, close colleagues, anyone in your field you admire. Nurturing those relationships, coffee chats, bouncing ideas off each other, being there when they need support. And then you've got your outer circle, the 100. These are more your acquaintances, maybe people you met at a conference or connected with online.
Ah, got it, got it. And this is where, I'm guessing, this is where branching out becomes really important. Because Robinette's big on having a diverse network, right?
100%. And By diverse, it's not just about being, politically correct or checking boxes. It's about tapping into this wider range of viewpoints, backgrounds, experiences. You get access to so much more that way. Like Robinette tells this great story about, I think he was a seasoned sales exec, and somehow he struck up this friendship with this young woman who owned a vegan cafe.
Okay, that's an interesting combo.
Right. You wouldn't think those two would cross paths, let alone become friends, but you know what? That connection ended up being huge for him. It opened up this whole new client base for his company that he never would have reached otherwise.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's like they say, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes the most unexpected connections turn out to be the most valuable.
100%. And speaking of building a strong network, Robinette talks about this idea of it, get this, a three-dimensional network.
Three-dimensional? Okay, I'll admit, that one kind of threw me for a loop. What does that even mean when we're talking about networking? Like, should I be wearing those 3D glasses from the movie theater?
Uh-huh. If only. But no, Robinette's talking about a network that supports you on multiple levels. Think of it like building a house. You've got your architects, contractors, electricians, plumbers. They each bring something different to the table.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. You wouldn't ask your electrician to, like, design your landscaping.
Exactly. So instead of having a network where everyone's kind of doing the same thing, you want a good mix of people, different skills, experiences, perspectives. They can all contribute in different ways.
So it's like having a well-rounded team, but for your career, for your life, for everything.
Exactly. That's your three-dimensional network. And here's something else to keep in mind. A healthy network, it's not just this like static list of names. It's always evolving.
So you're saying I can't just, like, hoard business cards and call it a day. I actually have to do something with them.
You got it. It's about nurturing those relationships, making sure they stay mutually beneficial. Like any relationship, you got to put in the effort if you want it to grow.
So it's not enough to just have a ton of contacts. You actually have to, like, engage with these people, make sure those connections still make sense for you, make sure they're valuable, quality over quantity.
Exactly. And just like you might clean out your closet or, finally tackle that overflowing inbox, Robinette's a big believer in regularly purging your network.
Purging. That sounds kind of intense. Like, do I need to wear gloves for this?
Huh? It's not quite that dramatic. Think of it more like spring cleaning for your contacts. Are there people you haven't spoken to in years? Maybe connections that have just kind of fizzled out or don't really align with your goals anymore? It's about making room for fresh starts, for new, stronger connections to come in.
It's like when I finally cleaned out my spice rack. Some of those spices were, like, ancient.
Yeah.
But once I tossed them, it made room for new flavors, and honestly, it made it so much easier to find what I actually needed.
I love that analogy. It's about being intentional with who you're connecting with, making sure your network is actually serving you in a positive way.
It's not about being ruthless. It's about being strategic,
Yeah.
right? Making sure your network is a source of support, inspiration, opportunity. And sometimes that means letting go of connections that aren't really doing anything for you anymore to make room for the ones that will.
100%. So think about your own network for a second. If you had to give it a health checkup right now, what would the diagnosis be? Is it thriving or does it need a little TLC?
Yeah, that's the part I always try to avoid thinking about, all those neglected contacts just sitting there gathering dust.
It happens to the best of us. But hey, the good news is, even if your network feels a little, shall we say, neglected right now, it's not too late to turn things around.
Okay, good, good. So no need to panic if my network feels more like a ghost town than a bustling city.
Not at all. It really boils down to taking those small, consistent steps,
Yeah.
nurturing the connections you have and being open to new ones. And hey, remember Sarah, your friend who landed that amazing job after she got laid off.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Her story is like the perfect example of how powerful a well-tended network can be.
It's true. When I think about it, Sarah was always so good about just staying in touch with people, even if it was just a quick email or a phone call. It always felt genuine, like she really cared, and it clearly paid off for her.
And that's a really important point, right? It all comes back to that question. What are you bringing to the table? What value can you offer to your connections? When you approach networking with that kind of generosity, that willingness to help others without expecting anything in return, you'll be amazed at how your network blossoms.
So it's not about, like, keeping score or trying to get something out of every interaction.
Exactly.
It's about showing up authentically, being someone others can count on. Because let's face it, you never know when you might need to tap into that network yourself.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. The most successful networks, they're built on a foundation of real connection, mutual benefit.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here into the world of, we'll say it again, power connectors, what's the one big takeaway you hope sticks with our listeners?
If you only remember one thing from our conversation today, let it be this: a true power connector. They're not defined by how many people they know, but by the value they bring to those relationships.
Oh, I love that. It's not about having a network. It's about being someone others want to connect with.
Exact.
Someone who brings their A game to every interaction, their strengths, their insights, their generosity.
And hey, who knows? You might even find yourself baking some metaphorical triple chocolate brownies along the way.
And on that note, we'll wrap things up. Until next time, happy connecting, everyone.